This conference will now be recorded.
All right, great. So we're back on here and we got this on record. As I mentioned, today's topic is Quick Checker. I'll show you that in just a second and maybe explain exactly what we'll be talking about if that's not ringing a bell right off the bat. So let's go ahead and dig right in. I'm actually going to open up a teacher account here. I've got a demo account set up at your district. By the way, kind of looking at all of the district stats here for Roswell, we've got so many different schools here that are actively using the program, along with many, many students. You can see that we're almost at 4 million problems completed by the district from students so far this year. So there's a lot of usage. There's a lot of data that's coming in and out of this program for a lot of you. And it's worth kind of making sure that we all have, a good understanding of where that data is going, what sort of options and features you have, and of course, want to make sure to answer your questions too, because want to make sure this is useful for you. You guys are going to get something out of this. I'm actually going to type in a little message. There's a chat box here, and I just want to type in a message so that you can kind of see where it is. If you'll notice a little balloon pop up there on your screen, you'll probably see that that's where you would type in a question as we go. And so I just wanted to start here really quick by, again, opening up a sample teacher account so that we can kind of make sure we're looking at the same thing that you're seeing, right? And I'm also going to open up a student account kind of as we go. The idea here is to open up a teacher account and a student account kind of at the same time, just so we have an idea as to, what we're looking at from the teacher side and what the students are seeing, and kind of where all that information, is how all that information is communicating as well. So I've got my little demo teacher account. And again, just to kind of reiterate what we talked about at the beginning, we look up at MobyMax. When we first log in, we have differentiated learning, which is typically kind of the nuts and bolts of the program. It's probably what you're using most days, where your students are doing placement tests and working on lessons. We have over here interactive class at the top, and that's where you can set up games for your students to play, educational based games for your students to play kind of with and against each other as kind of a fun way. And then here in the middle, we have this quick checker feature, which is the subject of today's session, right? So we're going to talk about quick checker, and quick checker, again, is going to be the focus. It's not something we typically talk about when we're doing an introduction to MobyMax. Introduction to MobyMax, we talk about differentiated learning. We talk about all the subjects. We talk about the roster and the students, how they log in and how they take these placement tests, and where you can see all of the progress charts and graphs. But today, the webinar feature is on Quick Checker, which is, I guess I'd kind of call it level 2 if I had to sort of categorize it that way. So this is not necessarily something that we talk about if you're completely new to MobyMax. By the way, it doesn't hurt if you're completely new to MobyMax. This is a very good feature that anybody can use. But this is sort of the theme today. This is what we're scheduled to talk about. And again, it is called Quick Checker. There are a lot of different features in here that we can go over here. And I start by actually kind of maybe asking you all a question, just since we have a lot more people that are kind of joining here now. That little chat box that I typed in, that I'm typing in now, for you all, maybe you could start by just typing in a number between like 1 and 5 for me, and that number is how comfortable you are with MobyMax. So, you could put in number 1 if you've never seen it before. Thanks, Sarah, for number 3. That's perfect. So she's got the idea. Like if you're kind of familiar, you've used it. 3 is no problem. 1, you've never seen it before. 5, you feel like maybe you could work for MobyMax in your next life. Okay, Erica, if you're a 1, that's totally fine. We are talking about today, as I mentioned there, quick checker, but that's okay. There's no reason you shouldn't learn this part first, right? It's completely fine. All right, this is good. So thanks, guys, for sharing those details with me. These numbers give me a little bit of help as to kind of getting an idea as to how far or how good you feel, and it's nice for me to get a feel, check the temperature of the audience, as they say. And if you're any number you put in there is fine, whether it's a 1 or a 4 or a 3, just again kind of helps me out. Now, Looking here at MobyMax, I've logged into a teacher account, and this is what teachers see when you first log in. Again, this is your home page. If you're totally new to MobyMax, when you log in through Clever. I think you guys all log in through Clever, right? The teachers and the students. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there with somebody in the chat. Um, but cool. All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody. So, we don't have to talk about logging in or anything, but when you do log in, this is sort of this default homepage for the teacher. And typically, when I'm doing like a MobyMax 101 and I talk about how MobyMax works and kind of give you the DNA of the program, I'll usually start with this differentiated learning. We're not going to talk too much about that today. We're going to talk about Quick Checker, which I feel like I've said 15 times. It's like I'm trying to convince myself. You guys already get it. But anyway, here we are at the differentiated learning portal, and I do want to point out there's a big difference between the subjects that we're looking at here and the subjects that we see, over here in our quick checker area. These subjects are sort of what you use to see how your students are scoring on their practice lessons, right? So there's all sorts of lessons that you can assign to students, have them practice, look at scores, maybe assign a concept or skill to your class, see how they all do after answering questions and going through tutorials and all of that sort of stuff. There are also adaptive features here in the differentiated learning area, right? So MobyMax will start every student with these adaptive placement tests, and now is probably a good time for me to go over here to my roster and log in as a demo student, because I kind of promised I'd have a student account open along with a teacher account at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that really quickly here, just so you get an idea as to what the students are looking at as well. So I'm signing in as a student here, and you can see that when my student logs in, he sees all of these subjects, right? So this is what a kid will see kind of by default. There's a way you can hide these subjects from students and things like that. Talk about that some other time. But these are sort of the practice subjects that a student works with, right? And the way MobyMax works is when a student clicks on a button, for example, math, the first time, they take what's called an adaptive placement test, all right? And these placement tests, again, just really quick to kind of show you how these work. They start students with questions. We kind of adapt the curriculum to how they're doing. We're trying to find missing skills for the kids, essentially. And when students can no longer answer questions correctly, right, when they keep getting a bunch in a row wrong, we kind of stop the test for them. It's sort of like a mercy rule in football, right? When students can no longer, when they're getting crushed here and they're not really able to answer questions consistently, we're going to just end the test. And as you can see here for me, this adaptive test was done very quickly. And what happens is we'll give students like a grade level equivalency score, and we'll show you what their missing skills are, and even set them up on some automatic lessons to practice. So, again, for this particular student, based on the answers I got wrong on the placement test, I'm going to start working on counting, right? So this is a little tutorial showing me, I guess, how to count, right? So that's sort of the way the adaptive curriculum works. However, we're not really talking about the adaptive curriculum today. We are talking about this feature up here that is called Quick Checker. And the way that this is different from the adaptive placement tests is that these Quick Checker assessments are summative, okay? So there is no mercy rule like there is on the placement test. We don't stop if it gets too hard for the student, right? So this way you can actually test the student on an entire grade level worth of curriculum without kind of worrying that, oh, I wonder if they'll get stopped, or I wonder if this, if this has, if this is too hard for my students or anything like that. It's simply a way for you to give students an across the board, this benchmarker anyway, an across the board test on a grade level. We give you like 1 or 2 questions per skill or standard. We just stop when those standards are completed, okay? And I'll show you how that works in a minute. But Quick Checker has a lot of other features too. not only do we have this big summative assessment, we also have a quick skill checker. This is a way for you just to test students on a particular skill. So instead of having them do an entire tutorial and a lesson, sometimes teachers just want to lay out a few questions based on a particular skill or standard and have them shown to their students. That's something you can do here. We have quick assessments. I like to call these maybe kind of a Frankenstein style test where you can actually set up your own questions in different areas. So if you wanted to give like a student a question, a third grader a math question, a science question, and a reading question all in one test, you can kind of build these tests to kind of have questions from different subjects all under one roof. And finally, we also offer this quick fluency. This is a way for you to test students on some of these early areas like do you want to just test a student on capital letters? Or should we just give a student a quick fluency test on multiplication by fives? I'll show you how all of these work in a second, but just wanted to point out what we have here. Now, is there anybody in the audience today who has used Quick Checker today? Or I should ask this, have you used Quick Checker? So type in yes or no, have you used this particular feature in MobyMax? Feel free to answer. Hey, Rhonda, you have. Okay, that's good to know. I figured most would be no. And Roberta as well. Okay. Hey, Tina, thanks. Glad you guys have chimed in. Now, for those of you who have answered yes, are you using the benchmarker or the quick skill? So I guess benchmarker is right here, and then quick skill is right here. So if you have used it, if you don't remember, that's okay. Just kind of curious. All right. Anybody else? Thanks, Tina. You did both? Great. And Rhonda, benchmarker. Okay. Yeah, and so let's take a peek at, so the one option I didn't mention here is the quick placement. This is just another place to view the placement test scores. So if we look at a teacher account here, so for example, let's take a peek at this particular teacher. This is a demo account with some data in it, which usually is kind of helpful. If we kind of take a peek at a differentiated learning button and we were to click math, and again, this is differentiated learning, there's a placement button that shows you those students' placement test scores. You can see I've got a few of them here. Again, grade level equivalency scores listed here for Edward, Jonathan, and Julia. If we go to the quick checker here in this particular teacher's account, the quick placement area is just another place where you can view those scores. So this is really not a separate feature that just only belongs in Quick Checker. It's just another place to view those placement test scores. And as you can see here, we have those math quick placement test results also listed here. Right? So again, a lot of information that we're looking at. These placement test scores, there's nothing you had to assign in Quick Checker to do these. It's just another place to view the placement test scores. I do want to point out, if you click on the quick placement test, you do have a nice way to kind of view these missing skills. For example, here's a test by Christian. Here's a test by Christian, and again, we can see pretty quickly how he did. And again, this is not necessarily a test you assign through Quick Checker. This is the placement test score. But again, you can kind of click here, see how the student did on that particular test. So for those of you that are familiar with MobyMax, the quick placement area is just another place to view the placement test scores. So let's talk a little bit about the other areas, including quick benchmarker, quick assessments, and then down here, quick skill. The two big ones out of this, quick benchmarker and quick skill. These are the features, the two areas of the quick checker that most people are going to use. And I'm going to start with the quick benchmarker. Okay, so we're going to start here, and then we're going to go on to this one. I'll talk about quick assessments and quick fluency at the end, but these two are the primary features that you're probably going to use, kind of these teal ones and the quick skill. So let's look here back to my teacher account. And we'll start with quick bench marker. This is a summative assessment that does not stop. Okay, it's not adaptive. And I would say most teachers probably like to assign this 2 times a year, maybe 3 at the most. It's not something you're going to use very often because these tests can be long. Let's take a look at how to assign one and kind of what it looks like on both sides. So let's say we want to assign our, oh, hey, by the way, what, type in what grade levels you guys teach. That would also be nice too. Type in the grade levels. Tammy, you teach 5th, 2nd, 4th, kindergarten, great. Got a rainbow here. We got people that are teaching all across the board here. A lot of elementary here today. Okay. And some are just doing ELA, some are doing math, and I'm sure some of you are doing just about everything, right? You're working on a self-contained class with lots of different subjects. Okay, that's nice. Good. Thanks for sharing, everybody. Rick, you're doing 8th. Okay, good deal. So K through 8, we should have something for everybody here. So let's just kind of take a peek. And let's start with just a quick benchmarker. Let's say we want to give our students a benchmarker test in math. Again, a non-adaptive math test. So these are really nice assessment features here. First, we click on Quick Checker, then we click on Math. Right away, create new test. That'll be the way to go. The first thing we're going to ask you to do is select your students. So if you select all of the students here in your class, you'll be able to assign them to everybody really quick. Most people assign it to everybody, but if there are a few students you want to leave out, maybe uncheck Richard or something here, and then just hit the next button. You'll see there's not a whole lot you have to do on your side. In math, we're going to ask you for the grade level, okay? In this case, I'll do just grade 2, right? And here we can select the length of the test, 45 or 90 minutes. You see now why I said this is something that you want to assign 2, max 3 times a year? These are pretty hefty, okay? Okay, I'm just going to make sure everybody's muted if that's okay. If you do have something to say, you can unmute yourself and join in. I have no problem with anybody, talking. But otherwise, just keep your lines muted if you don't. It's just easier just so we don't get any feedback. All right. So again, we first selected the students, and now we're looking at basically our choices here. We select a grade level for the test. So if I want New Mexico state standards, one problem per standard is right here, 45 minutes. 2 problems per standard on average could be 90 minutes. These are not the official times this test will take. These are the estimated times. We're estimating also on the high end. We didn't want to say this will take 10 minutes or 20 minutes and have most of the kids finish after that. We're kind of saying 45 minutes, for kids working, at a maybe a little slower than average speed, they'd probably be able to finish it by then. We can't really guess or know how long this is going to take. Some students work really fast, others work slowly. I'm going to select just the 45-minute test here, but again, this gives you an idea. Not something you want to give every week, right? Hit the next button, and then all we have to do is select a date for our test. This is optional, okay? And when you select a date, it just means the day you want this to be done by. This doesn't mean the day that this is going to appear for the student or the day that the test is going to become available. As soon as you hit finish, this test is going to be live on every student's portal. So keep that in mind. When you select a date, what you're really saying is, I'd like this to be done by Friday, November 20th, okay? You don't have to put that in. In fact, you can leave this blank and just hit finish, and there is no due date. But again, it's nice sometimes to just put something in there. And again, you're selecting a due date. Hit finish, and you're done. So really quick and easy to assign. You can see right away, all of my students that I assigned this to now have this listed next to their names. They have a grade level test coming up for grade 2. It will tell me how much time they spent total on it after we're done, but essentially this is just what we have here. On the student side, right? Remember, this is my student page that I've opened up. If I refresh the page, you'll notice something different on this page all of a sudden. It's up at the top. There's this little 1 up here in the assignments button, in the assignments tab. And if you click on this assignments tab, we will see that the quick benchmarker here for grade 2 is up. It also shows a due date, right? So it doesn't mean that's the date that it appears. It means that's the date that it's due, and it appears right away after they're done. The way I set this up, I think I selected the 45-minute test. Let's click on it. And don't worry, I'm not going to make you sit through a 45-minute test with me. I'm turning off the sound, but I did want to encourage everybody and make sure everybody knows it is read aloud by default. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. We are reading these aloud for the students. Student will start, and right away, we're getting our first question immediately. This is, again, aligned to the New Mexico State math standards. It'll be the same for ELA, or foundational reading, or reading skills. And we're going to go in here and just see, I guess this is probably like a word problem that has to do with subtraction or something like that. If a student gets the answer wrong, they will know this. They will see this. They will see an X, okay? Some people have said, can we make it so they don't see either way? I totally would like it if we had that right now, but we don't. So students are going to see when they get this correct or incorrect, right? So let's try and see if I can get one correct. There we go. You'll also see that they get this correct. Look at the bottom of the bar here. This bar is showing me how far along I am and how far, this is how long it's going to take me to complete. It might kind of show me a little bit of a progress bar, right? So again, we're just going to get a couple more wrong, and maybe we'll just kind of make some guesses here. Oh, hey, this might be an easy one. We're kind of moving right along, right? So again, you're seeing how this progress bar is going up. Students do not have to do this all in one sitting. The student can click on the home button, go back, work on other things. The student could log out and log back in tomorrow and pick up right where they left off. The student could log out and come back in, in 10 minutes after they go get some, baby carrots and some Cheez-Its, and they can come back, sit down, and start over again. No problem. So they don't have to finish this all in one chunk. These can be a bit long, but they are really nice because they do actually provide you with some robust data. And here you can see I just click the button and it picks me up exactly where I left off. Any thoughts, feedback, or questions on how to assign one of these tests? Does this all make sense to you? Guessing that was kind of straightforward, but please ask questions. Type those questions in or unmute yourself and ask. I'd be happy to answer as we go. Thanks, Ray. Okay, so now that we're kind of moving right along, we've seen how to assign them, right? And we've also seen what the students are seeing, right? This is what they get. A couple of notes that I've questions I do get over time. Are they always going to see the grade level? Yes, they are. Again, if you could hide this, some people would say, oh boy, I got a 7th grader that I'm going to give a grade 2 benchmarker. I wish they didn't see the grade. I totally get it. But it is going to be there for now. Can you assign a grade level test to students? Like if these are 2nd graders, could I assign Richard a new test and have this test be a 5th grade test if he's working above grade level? Of course, right? You can assign any grade level test to any grade level students. So that's no problem there. Again, if I want to assign a 5th grade level test to this 3rd grader, go right ahead and do that, no problem whatsoever. So you can assign a test that's above, below grade level, anything like that as well. You'll notice here that on the teacher side, all I'm not seeing a score because Larry's not done yet. I do see just a focus percentage that lets me know how engaged the student is. Is the student drifting? Is the student answering questions quickly? This allows me to kind of get a hold on that. Okay. We also will see the results here when we click on results, and I have some here in a different account. I think it's a good time that I would show you what those results look like. Okay, so let's go back over here to our teacher account, and let's look at a teacher that has given some math benchmarkers so you can see what sort of data you're going to get on your side of things. After we click on the benchmarker, now we're going to look at results. So we're just going to zip on over here, and instead of clicking the snapshot or looking at any of this information, we are going to click on results. As soon as we click on results, I do see the ending scores for a lot of my students. This means that they have finished, right? So when you see a score here, the students have completed the assessment. You'll also see there's a lot of students that have not completed the assessment. In fact, most of my students haven't yet, but a lot of the students, at least a handful of the students have, and we do have their results here. You can see right away Julia with a 39%. This just means she knows 39% of third grade standards according to that test. If we click on the 39, here's where we really get to kind of dig into some of the actual data here. I see that she scored a 39%, and this kind of breaks it down, right? So actually, these little arrows, I can kind of minimize them, right? So we can see that third grade math is broken up into operations, algebraic thinking, number operations in base 10, fractions, measurement and data, and geometry. And I can get a really nice little quick glance as to how Julia is doing in each one of those kind of domains, if that makes sense, right? We can clearly see that her weak area is number operations and fractions, but she does have missing skills in several other domains here as well. If we open one of these up, so number operations in base 10, this is maybe one of her stronger areas. Let's open that up. I click the button and I can see here all the questions that she had related to that particular domain are all listed here. She knows how to do 3 NBTA1, 3 NBTA2, but 3 NBTA3 she did not show proficiency on. You can actually click on the 0%. It shows you any related problems to that particular skill or standard that she did. It will also show you her answer, right? So she, clicked these three, maybe missed that one or whatever it was, I guess. But you'll be able to see again how they did. You can, by default, they're all going to be expanded, but I just kind of shrunk them up here so we can just kind of see this again. If you open these up, again, when you see a 0, this means the student has encountered a question or 2 questions on this particular skill or standard and does not know how this particular skill or standard works. Again, click here, you'll see exactly where the student went wrong. If you would like, here's a cool thing. You can look at these 0 percentages and click the little button right here and hit assign remediation lessons. So this is the cool thing about this benchmark test is not only do you get to see these missing skills for the students, but you can click any skill that they're not showing proficiency in and remediate with practice lessons. As soon as I hit that, I see all of the lessons that are related to that particular skill or standard that we have. So I can see that we have multiply using rectangular arrays, repeated addition, and form bundles of tens, hundreds, and thousands. I can click on any of these to see the questions that will be given to that student based on that particular skill or standard, right? So here's one, I guess we're giving her 21 problems, or here we're giving her 39 problems to work on. In this particular case of multiplying, again, we have 21 different problems. If this looks like something I'd like to assign her and have her practice on, simply click the box, hit next, and it asks me where I would like to place the lesson in the student's practice sequence. Do I want to just bump it right up to the top, which means it'll be the next lesson she gets as soon as she logs in? Or do I just want her to have her do this, at some point, right? So it's totally up to you. When I remediate, I guess I pretty much usually just leave them at the top. I just want them to be working on stuff that they just worked on that test. Hit the next button. This is totally up to you. Do you want them to see the lesson or not? And just hit the finish button. If they don't see the lesson, it just means that the student, if he clicks on math, he can't see what he's going to get. He just gets the lesson that you've just assigned. If you decide to display the lesson, it's actually going to show up here. So the remediated lesson would show up below the bench marker, just like you would see here. Okay, so that's a kind of a cool thing to be able to remediate missing skills. Tons of great information. Now, here's a few more instances of some of the data you're going to get from the benchmarker. Okay, remember we clicked on results and we saw all the scores. We also can look, for example, if we have every single kid in our test, let's say every third grader actually finished this. In this particular case, only a handful have finished, and there's way more that haven't down here as we scroll down. But let's just say everybody finished, and I can now click standards. Here, I'm going to go to grade 3, because that's the grade we gave the test in. And I can immediately look, and I see all of the third grade standards right here. And I can kind of scroll down, and I could say, whoa, 20% of my students know how to do 3.0 B5. Click this button here. It shows me which students have mastered this particular skill, which haven't, and finally which ones have not been tested as well, which is an overwhelming amount in this case. So I have the list of the name of the standard right here. I know who's mastered it. I got a list of every single student that knows it. I know the student that tried and didn't master it. I also can see these aren't tested. All of this information can be exported to a CSV file, downloaded to a PDF. So a lot of times people have asked us, hey, can I just see who knows what standard? I want to see a list. I want to see a list of standards, and I want to get a feeling for which students know these and which don't. It's all going to be right here. Again, if you have all your students take this benchmarker, it gives you some really nice data. Let's see if we got a question here. Yeah, actually, when you remediate, Ray, it assigns the grade level. It'll assign a lesson at whatever grade level the test was given at. So if the test was a grade 3 level test and you remediate, you're remediating with a grade 3 level lesson on that particular skill. Now you could certainly manually assign a lesson at a lower grade level if you wanted to, that's in the same particular theme, right? Like if you wanted to assign a fractions lesson, you know, at the 3rd grade level to a 5th grader, that's no problem. You could do that in differentiated learning. But if you're remediating from the benchmarker, it's going to remediate the grade level that they just worked on. So again, some really great things we can do here. We're looking at results, and we can see results by standard. Right? So really nice to know. 17% of my 3rd graders know how to do this. Which ones are they? Here they are. You know, here are the ones who do know it. Here's the ones who don't. Really nice to have. Again, all that work that the students are doing, that data is going to be usable for you. You could also just click the button here that says tests, right? This actually will show you any test that was assigned to like all of your students, and you'll be able to see how they did, you know, on those particular tests. And finally, let's see. Oh, we already did the progress button. The summary button as well. Here, again, we can see if you've given tests at multiple grade levels, you know, maybe you want to give students a benchmarker in grade 2 and grade 3. We can see again here just some results for students. And if you have a mixed classroom that may have taken some grade 2 and grade 3 tests, like if you're teaching 2nd and 3rd graders, you'd kind of get to see, you know, how they're doing in every different area. So tons of information here on the results file. And again, this is just the benchmarker we've talked about here so far. And I think the key points to remember about this benchmarker, if you're going to use it, number 1, you don't want to assign it every week. You want to save it. Maybe you want to do this 2-3 times per year. If you haven't done it yet, now would be a fine time to do it. And then do it again before state testing, right? It also kind of is a good way for students to practice. If they're doing state tests on the computer, it would be a good way for them to kind of get used to that format. But again, I'd assign it twice a year, maybe 3 times at most. Number 2, it's not adaptive, it's summative, right? So it doesn't give students, you know, it doesn't put on the brakes if the students are struggling. It's going to take them through all the way. It's long. It can be long, I guess I should say. But most importantly, you know, the data that you're going to be getting from these is very robust. So it is worth the time that's put in. Students don't have to do it all under one session, right? They can take their time, they can log in, they can log out. All right. Any other thoughts, feedback on the benchmarker? Anybody who's used it want to weigh in with any So I'm just looking for any other questions. I got a question about vocabulary words. That is a different, today's session is about quick checker. We will have a question, we will have a session about vocabulary words later. I will, Alma, if you want to hang on till the end, I'll tell you how to do it. But I'm going to stick with quick checker for now. I'll get back to that at the end. Any other questions about the benchmarker? Cool. All right. So now let's continue and talk about the other big one here. So remember, we're sticking here with quick checker. We're not even talking about the other stuff. It's quick checker only. The other area we're going to be talking about here is quick skill. And this is the other part of the quick checker that I wanted to kind of hammer home today. This is kind of these two areas are the most important. And let's go over here. Now, remember, all sorts of practice lessons. And this also, the quick checker we just looked at with the benchmarker, big long test. Quick skill, this is actually quick, right? So the name quick really does fit. We just want to give our students, we just want to like test them on a few skills, maybe throw out a standard or two and see which students know it and which don't. Super easy. Let's do language this time. Math gets all the attention. So here we are. We clicked on quick skill language, and right away, again, just like in the benchmarker, create new test. You select the grade level up here. So I'm going to select grade 3 this time. Oops, I'm sorry. I guess I'm going to select my students. My bad. I'm going to select my students first and hit next. I've selected grade level 3, so here it is. And here it shows me every single skill, right? So all of these standards are made up of different skills. So here's the standard. Here are the skills that make up that standard. You can see there's a ton of them, right? So as we start to scroll down, we see all sorts of information here and all sorts of skills at the 3rd grade level in language. Again, aligned to the New Mexico state standards. So if I would like to, let's see if we find something that, scroll down a little bit more, capitalize appropriate words and titles, use commas and addresses, and use quotation marks in dialogue. These are 3 skills that I've selected, right? I clicked 1, 2, 3. MobyMax will ask 3 questions per skill, okay? So capitalize the appropriate words and title. If I click here, it's going to ask me the first 3 questions I see. Why do we say 12 problems are available? It's because we have 4 sets. So if you were to give this quick skill checker to students 4 times, we'd have 3 questions for them available each time. So if we're assigning this the first time, the students are going to get these first 3 questions. Okay. Capitalizing the words and titles, using quotation marks and dialogue. Here's another thing. We have 12. Again, we're giving them the first 3. 3 questions per skill. So I assign 3 skills. That's 9 questions, right? Well, kind of. Let's go on to the next button. Here you get to name your test. So maybe this is something you give to students, every Friday right before they leave or something. And some people have done this. They call it a Friday exit ticket. I don't know. One of the schools I was working with did something like this, and we'll have the date be on Friday. Remember, this is not the day that it gets released to the students. It's the day that it's due. So it will show up as soon as you hit finish. This will again become live immediately. Maybe you want to wait till Friday morning to assign this. Totally up to you. Hit the finish button and we're ready to go. So what do we see here on the student side? Let's go ahead and refresh our page. And just like before, we now see another bubble up here in our assignments tab. And as you can see, our Friday exit ticket is listed right here. Remember, 3 questions per skill. I assigned 3 skills. This should be 9 questions. But here's the kicker. The student has to get all 3 questions right for the skill to be considered passed. So let's take a look at how this goes and explain why maybe you won't get 9 questions. Which answer choices capitalize the title correctly? I think it's this one. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So here's my second question. Again, capitalizing titles. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Which words should start with a capital letter? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think this is the way it should go. Nice. I got the second one right. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Okay, look, I got all 3 questions in that skill right. we're now moving on to skill 2. Here's my first question on putting commas in addresses. Now in this particular case, I'm going to get this answer wrong, okay? I'm not going to get the other 2 questions because since I have to get all 3 right, when I get this one wrong, and you'll see this bar instead of asking me the next 2, oop, look, it went up. I'm now on skill number 3. So you have to get all 3 right to pass the skill. If you get the first one wrong, we're not going to ask you the other 2. Okay. So there I got this answer wrong on the 3rd skill as well. It immediately just ended it. So it could be 9 questions, but in my case it was just 5, and it could be as few as 3. In the student's case, they don't necessarily see anything as far as their final score. It just says you're done. And on the student side, that assignment is also going to disappear from my assignments tab. It's gone. I'm done. Let's go back to my teacher page and see what the results are. We can see right away that our student score is in. My test student Larry did score 33%, right? I got 1 out of 3 correct. If we click on that 33%, we see that I passed capitalizing the appropriate words and titles, but I failed the other 2 skills. Just like benchmarker, if you click on the fail button, you'll see exactly where they went wrong. And if you would like, you can click the buttons next to these 2 particular concepts here, or maybe just this one, and assign remediation lessons. So again, commas and addresses, here we are. Let's assign this one and this one here, hit the next button. We're going to assign it to the top, and we're going to place it in the assignments tab this time around. Okay. My student will now immediately see his remediation lessons are available, commas and addresses. Right? Below that benchmarker, I still haven't finished. If I would like to remediate the other skills that he failed, using quotation marks and dialogue, I can do that as well. So here's one, a couple different lesson topics. Hit the next button. Again, we're going to display the due date for that one as well. Hit the finish button, and the student is again going to see that new remediation lesson pop up. We've got commas and addresses and quotation marks and commas and dialogue all ready to go. The student can click there and start working on those lessons immediately. And again, you're going to see the results for those in differentiated learning. So a couple different features we have there, quick skill and quick benchmarker. Really nice way for you to be able to give students a test on a skill or standard really quickly without giving them too much work. Just a really nice little snapshot for you. The other benchmarker, as we can see, longer, deeper, more summative. A lot of information there as well. Any thoughts or feedback on what we've looked at? Anything you'd like me to clarify, or does anybody want to share your own experiences? Anything like that? Please feel free. All right, so it sounds like this all is making somewhat of sense to everybody, and that's good. And again, it's a little weird if you haven't used MobyMax before. Again, just as we talked about here at the beginning, this is kind of a level 2 presentation. This is a little bit like, the beginner stuff we're talking about at a different date. And so if you haven't used MobyMax before and this is totally new to you, I can understand why you might be a little quieter at this particular time. But if for those of you that are here, knowing that this is a level 2 presentation, I'm glad this is coming in helpful for a lot of you. Let's look. Oh, we did have a question here. Thanks for doing that there, Ray. Oh yeah, thanks for your feedback. Yeah, you can drill down into those standards and offer remediation lessons. Absolutely. You're not just getting the results, you're getting results and you're able to kind of address, right, and fix. So that's a cool thing to be able to do. Since we did have a couple more minutes here, oops, sorry about that. Let me zip back into my little demo account here. Since we did have a couple more minutes today, I did also want to point out that in the Quick Checker feature, not only do you have Benchmarker and Quick Skill, but you do have Quick Fluency. Again, kind of like it says on the tin, right? So let's just, I mentioned earlier, and yeah, Ray, good point about that. If you assign a lesson after the current lesson, if you select that option, you don't interrupt what the students are currently working on. So it gives them a chance to finish what they're doing and then get into that remediation lesson. If you do put it on this display page, they can kind of just do it whenever they want, regardless of of that. So if you select after current lesson and still display them here, that's another feature that you could do as well. It's always interesting about displaying these lessons. Some people like to do it, other people don't. It's it's totally a personal choice. Sometimes people like that students can see this stuff and they can see what's kind of coming their way. Other people say, well, then he might work on this for like 10 minutes and not finish it, and go over here and do 10 minutes of this and not finish it. And they just prefer the student to click the button and just get what's there. So I can see kind of both ways on that. Looking at the other features that you do have available for you, I didn't talk too much about Quick Fluency. It's nice if you click on like multiplication. Remember I was saying like, let's do just a quick test on multiplying by 5. You create a new test, same way as before, select the students, and I can see all of these multiplication issues right here. It tells you how many problems there will be. So if I select multiplying by 5, I see there's 12 problems with it. Let's just click it, hit next. We're going to call this, a times 5 quiz. Again, you can set a date if you want to. You don't have to. Hit the finish button. Remember, it'll display right away, and the student will see that. We're just going to get those 12 questions here on multiplying by 5. You get to see the results. With multiplication and facts like these, you don't necessarily get to assign, I don't think, remediation lessons. I can actually check because see if I can get some right here. Get some wrong. I'll get a couple wrong here. Should have just a couple more questions right. Now I'll just answer them all wrong. Get out of here. You guys don't need to see this. Oops, looks like it makes you answer. All right. Yep. So the time limit should be 6 seconds, I believe. So good question on that. If we're looking at results here, let's see. Hey, 25%. I can just see their score. I cannot remediate, right? I could assign the student facts in the fact fluency area, but again, you're kind of just seeing the results here, not necessarily remediating with lessons, because we don't have lessons that are assigned, to kind of fact fluency. And then finally, quick test. I talked about this as the Frankenstein style test, where you can like build your own. I think you would do this more. You could make it a little bit more fun. It's kind of a popcorn grab bag. If you're teaching general education to a lot of students and you're working with various subjects, and you've just said, hey, this will be a test on a lot of different things, just for kind of fun. Again, create a new test. You add new problems. Here it's like math grade K. Well, what if I want to do science and I want to do grade 4, right? I see all of the questions here, animal adaptations, right? Heredity. I can see all the problems that would come through. So let's go ahead and we'll ask this one. We can view it if we want to. And we're going to add that problem. Now I'm going to add a new problem. And this time, instead of science grade 4, we're going to have it be a social studies grade 4 question, right? Northeast history in modern times. What kind of questions do we have here, right? Okay, this is about the Boston Tea Party. That looks good. Let's select that. And we're going to add another new problem. And this one we're going to do, we'll do math grade 4, and we'll do multiplicative comparisons. We'll select this one here. So select that, add it. So again, just kind of a fun way to build a test. Select your students. We call this our mixed, quiz or something. Again, due date is totally optional. And once again, your students will see that right there on their assignments tab. There's their mixed quiz. You get a few questions from different areas. Again, you get to see the results. I think we built this mainly just due to many requests that teachers wanted to be able to do that. And here it is. You have that available. So there you go. That is the Quick Checker summary. Thank you guys all for being here today. Any other feedback or questions on how Quick Checker works? Any of the features there? I'd be happy to share with you. Do appreciate your time. And by the way, Alma, I didn't forget your question on vocabulary. I'll get to that in a second. Just want to make sure there's any other questions from the audience that's here. And thank you for everybody that was engaged in asking questions and giving feedback. Many of you who have used it already. It's helpful to me to get some of those questions. I like to answer the questions that you have rather than just kind of talk at you. So it's really nice. Next webinar will be more of an intro 101 thing. I think that's coming up Wednesday. All right, everybody. Well, feel free to drop off. Feel free to drop off. You can leave now, unless you want me to stick around and watch me show Alma how to do her vocabulary words, which that's totally fine too. We got no problem with that. Spelling words, I'm sorry. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. And thanks for being here.